This is how you tell if your control arm bushing on your Mini Cooper is bad. Kick the tire, and if it wiggles around like it's a bowl of jello, then the bushing is bad. It should be pretty stiff when you kick the tire. What's up and welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be changing the driver's side control arm bushing on my 2004 Mini Cooper. BuyAutoparts.com sent along some bushings for this video. So if you need some bushings, go over to BuyAutoparts.com and get a set there. Additionally, if you use the code CARGUIDE20, you'll get $20 off of a $150 order. So obviously the engine is out of this vehicle. So a few of the steps have already been done, and it's going to be a lot easier for you to see what's going on without the engine in there. So that is where the bushing is. There's one on each side. There are 3 bolts that hold the bracket and bushing on. You can see one of the bolts there, and one there, and one there. Now there are 2 different ways that you can replace the bushing. You can remove the control arm, and then you can cut that metal collar with a Sawzall and pop the bushing out. Or you can lower the subframe, which will allow you to get access to that bolt so that you can unbolt the bushing and bracket assembly and just replace the whole thing, which is what I would actually recommend doing, because I cut this side out and pressed a new one in, and it was an absolute nightmare. Even though both ways really suck, I think just bolting the new assembly on is going to be easier. So we're going to replace the driver's side bushing in this video. First thing you want to do is pop the lower ball joint out of the control arm. You can rent a ball joint puller kit from your local auto parts store, or you can buy the separator for a reasonable price. You're also going to need to remove this ball joint. This is the inner ball joint, either by removing these 2 bolts or by removing this nut and separating the control arm from the ball joint. Given my situation where the engine is out, I just opted to remove these, and these are some of the hardest bolts to get out that I've ever, so there's that to consider. And to get these bolts out, the easiest way is to lower the subframe. So once you have the subframe lowered, you can access these bolts a bit easier when the engine is in, because the transmission is like right here and the axle is going right over that ball joint. I do have a video of replacing this ball joint, so if you want to check that out and see how to access these bolts and everything, go check that out. I'll put a link right here or here. And these are 16mm bolts. Now I'll explain how to lower the subframe. You got this bolt here, this bolt here. You can get these bolts in a straight shot from under the car with an extension. And then you have these 3 bolts right here. They're not in there that tight, they're easy to get out. And finally, you will need to remove that bolt, which bolts the bushing bracket to the body of the car. A handheld impact drill is sufficient to get the bolts out of the subframe, but for these inner ball joint bolts, I had to use a breaker bar and a 5 or so foot piece of black pipe, and yet it was a nightmare and it took forever. Another thing you want to do before you lower the subframe is loosen that bolt so that this will not get pulled down by the steering rack, because the steering rack is attached to the subframe. Another thing you want to do is zip this off of here, because the hoses are connected to the power steering pump, which is connected to the subframe. I'm just putting my jack stand under the frame. Yeah, I'm just putting that there so the frame doesn't fall too far in case it falls. You can also use the pry bar in between the bushing and the car to pry the subframe down a bit and give you some clearance to get a socket in there. Those are 18mm bolts back there, by the way. You'll need the breaker bar to break the bolt loose. It's not really on there that tight though. And you can get to all these bolts through the passenger wheel well. You probably just got to take the axle off and pop the ball joint out and just have it set up like this for those of you who don't have your engines out, which is probably all of you. Just reach a wrench in here, and the other bolt's back here. And in order to get this bolt out, you got to get this one out first, so that when you pull this one, the whole thing moves. You need that movement so the bolt will clear the car. Then once all those bolts are out, including those, you can get that out of here, and you gotta unplug this thing too. I need to get a little screwdriver, that's why I forgot to do that. And then this assembly is out. Now you gotta separate this from this. That is so bad though. That thing is so shot. I don't know if you can see that rip in there. Jesus. It's also a good time to change your sway bar bushings, seeing as they are right there. Well, that wasn't as bad as I thought. The left and right side bushings are different, so you need to make sure you install the correct one. You need to make sure it's in the correct orientation on the control arm, which I'm gonna have to figure out what that is now. That's not a big deal. Just using the tongue of my trailer as a press, nothing to see here. Alright, that worked, believe it or not. Trailer tongue as a press. Now we can reinstall this. Now you can wiggle your subframe around and line it back up, put all the bolts in, tighten them down. You can use a jack under there to help hold it up. Yeah, it's really not too bad. It doesn't seem too heavy. Some people say it's 200 pounds, but I think they're wrong. Another thing that helps with this job is to disconnect the sway bar link on both sides so that the sway bar is just chilling there, so that it's not connected to the weight of this, and it's do not forget to reinstall the bolt that goes here. And if you're feeling nice, you can get some white lithium grease. Spray this little guy. He'll love you for that. So overall, that wasn't as bad of a job as I thought it was going to be. The engine being out, of course, helped a lot. The hammer drill helped a lot. I should have got a hammer drill a lot sooner, but my old drill was still kicking. It finally died. Had to get another. Having changed the bushings both ways with the cutting method and just the bolt-on method, I think the bolt-on method is a lot easier. No cutting and pressing and straining and all that shit. Bolt-on method, take the bolts out, move some things around, put the bolts back in, and that's it. The hardest part, of course, was pressing the bushing, or pressing the control arm into the bushing. The rubber is obviously heavy-duty rubber, and there's metal inside of the rubber that is meant to hold that on to the control arm tightly. As you saw, I had to use the weight of my enclosed trailer to press that on. So you might need a shop press or a trailer. Don't hurt yourself if you use a trailer or a shop press or anything. Any work you do on your car is your own risk. Make sure you know how to work on cars safely. That's not up to me to show you how to do that on every little repair video. You need to know these things on your own. You need to look them up. I appreciate you watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more videos like this. And I will see you in the next video.